Hello, I'm Mayor Rick Goldring, and welcome to Burlington Matters. Burlington Matters is a program I host on a regular basis here on Cogeco TV, featuring discussion about issues and events that are happening within the city of Burlington. Today we're going to be talking about different programs that our faith communities are offering in the city. I often say at different events where I speak at that the city is very fortunate to have the depth and breadth of community organization that contributes to others on a regular basis in our community, from service clubs and not-for-profit agencies and our faith communities. Our guest today, to my immediate left, is Reverend Orville James from Wellington Square United Church. Beside Orville is Lisa Lunski, and Lisa is in charge of the Friday night community programming at Wellington Square United Church. And we have Kiani, the program manager of Open Doors at St. Christopher's Anglican Church on Guelph Line. So welcome to the three of you. Thank you very much for taking time to be with me. So let's get some history about the Wellington Square program and the Friday night community. When did it all start, and what was the impetus for the beginning of it?
Our Wellington Square was really good early on about being part of the global community, and we were sending teams to Mexico to build houses, and there's an orphanage in Sierra Leone, a Wellington orphanage. But we were meeting and saying, what about more locally? And we had little teams doing things in Oakville and in Hamilton, special meal programs, and we had a group of guys met in the basement of a pub. Can I name the pub?
Or sure, sure.
The Poacher. And we were this group of men were saying, let's do something for people right here instead of offshore and out of town. Let's do something for people right here. And the idea was really inspired by St. Christopher's Anglican, already doing great work. On Tuesday nights they had a dinner, and we said, let's help them first and give them a summer off. And we did a summer, and St. Christopher's got the time off. And then it just flowed from there. Our people got excited and said, well, they're doing Tuesday night, maybe we can do Friday. And it just snowballed and has expanded now into, there's 7 or 8 faith groups and all kinds of community groups working with, and Lisa coordinates all of that. So
Lisa, let's talk about the Friday night community. How long has that been going on, and what do you see the benefits are?
So it's been happening for almost 8 years, and when we first started, we were sitting with an intimate group of about 15 people, and now we have about 250 people or over that come through our doors every Friday. The benefits are that everyone is welcome. It gives people a place to be. It gives people a community. Everyone is welcome, and I think our goal is really to invite people in the doors to share a meal. The original reason people come is for that hot and nutritious meal, but it's really so much more. It's really about walking with people, growing with people, sharing resources, and it goes outside of Friday. That's why we don't call ourselves a dinner. We call ourselves Friday Night Community, because there's so much more that happens on a Friday.
And Orville mentioned the Open Doors program at St. Christopher's. When did the first Tuesday night community supper start at St. Christopher's?
All of the work with Open Doors and St. Christopher's began about 15 years ago, and it actually began just as a simple clothing outreach program. A few parishioners started, and then a few years in they decided to add a meal, and it's kind of expanded from there until now we are a co-location model community hub. So we offer 15 in-house programs, including the meal, and in addition to that, we have a food bank and a free clothing store and children and youth programming, but we also have visiting programs like the Canadian Mental Health Association. And so it started from this very...
So what was the need that was identified in the community?
I think the need that was identified was that a church tends to draw people in. It's a natural fit that people needing support or inclusion will go to a church. Mm-hmm. and seeing that there was that natural fit, and realizing that the church could do something to meet some of those immediate needs like food and clothing, but also realizing that a church with that sort of space can do so much more than that. So taking those steps beyond just food, saying, okay, let's create a community space where people can feel inclusion and a sense of hospitality as well.
But that inclusion piece, there are people in our community that are socially isolated. And there are people that go through hard times. There are people suffering from mental health issues. What are some of the feel-good stories that you have from the different programs that you offer? Lisa?
I'm thinking specifically, one of our great partners over the last couple of years is Joseph Brandt Mental Health Community Advisory Committee, and they've been partnering with us. We provide monthly information sessions on topics that right after the dinner folks can stay for an information session. So for example, our last one was post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and also looking at the stigma of mental health. So that's a really big piece. The folks that are coming in our door to share a meal on Friday are also involved in organizing these information sessions, because they also know what the needs are in our community and what kind of conversations and support that are needed. So that's a really big piece and a really important partnership that we have.
So there's all these different programs. The Friday Night Community has a number of different programs that you offer, and the 15 programs through Open Doors at St. Christopher's. How do you promote? I mean, some of the people that you're targeting may not have access to social media, may not have access, or may not even think about looking for the programs that you're offering. How do you promote yourselves and your programs?
Can I take a first swing at that?
Sure.
My main role Friday nights is just to go schmooze. We have really good cooks. So I sit down and talk to people, and I always ask, how did you find this place? We're buried in the middle of downtown Burlington, and the answer inevitably I get is word of mouth. People, a friend will tell a friend, a brother-in-law will tell his sister-in-law, and it just ripples out like that. People connecting with each other and saying, there's a community here, there's a sense of belonging. It's a great meal, no denying that, but people are drawn by the connecting with others. And we have folks that come in wheelchairs, and we have folks that come, they're new to Canada. It's a great mix, and the word for us is word of mouth. We don't advertise, and Lisa, you may correct me on that.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to advertise. We're filling up every Friday. So
and filling up is how many people?
About 250. Wow. So that's capacity for.
Similar on Tuesday nights?
Yeah, we have about 250 people. And I'd say our answer would be similar in a sense, but we do, we advertise because of a lot of our additional programs like the food bank and OES, Ontario Electricity Support Program support, and other programs. So a lot of what happens is we have specific points of entry, and I think our meal and our food bank are two of our main points of entry. So people come because they've heard this is somewhere they can access food. But then it's a point of entry, but then they access so much more beyond that once they. So for us, it'll be key areas that draw them that are advertised through a lot of our partnerships. Through there's information pieces out like where to get help in Burlington. A lot of key partnerships in the region and the city that will mention if you need a food bank, you can go to Open Doors at St. Christopher's, and then they hear about other things beyond that.
So when people walk in the door to either church supper, what's the process? Is it just sort of natural? Does people just show up, and a lot of people may feel awkward at the beginning. Yeah. They sense some discomfort because they've never been there before. How do you overcome that?
The stigma and the dignity is a really big piece. So when people come in the doors to a dinner, I know there's a Glad Tidings dinner, there's other lunches, there's other dinners as well provided. The big piece is that we want to be welcoming. So our goal, there's people that are connecting in when someone comes in the door, there's someone to say hello, show them where they can get a name tag. Folks are a community, and when they see someone new, I often hear, hey, there's someone new sitting at that table, or one of the folks who comes to eat the meal will just welcome someone, hey, would you like to sit with us? So people pretty quickly do warm up. We do have a lot of caring and connecting folks that are sharing information. We do meet other needs if someone is in need of a winter coat, or they're in need of some resources, how to get some support with their children. We can give them the resources they need. So I think people pretty quickly do warm up when they come in the doors, but it is definitely overwhelming to come for a free community meal. But people quickly learn that it's a great place to be. community, and they're proud. When you see them out, you know, in the week at the grocery store, they'll say, "Hey, that lady's from Friday Night Community." So people are proud to go to any of the community meals, which is exactly what we want to do.
And we also find that we have a lot of people that will attend our Tuesday supper, and they know each other from the Friday supper. There's a community of people that attend the community meals, and they rotate, they move together. And I mean, so if you think about it, there are communities of people that are sharing 2 to 3 meals a week as a result of these community meals that wouldn't know each other otherwise, which is incredible.
Yeah.
What are some of the barriers or challenges in continuing to offer such a depth of programming, Anna?
So a lot of times awareness can be a challenge. So awareness in our community of the needs in accessing resources to provide the meals. We rely heavily on our partnerships to provide what we need to create the meals and create the spaces. And volunteers. We have over 500 volunteers. Our work would not happen without our volunteers. So the challenges of accessing resources. I mean, something very specific is transportation. Right. People being able to get to our space to access the meals, to access the food bank and the other programs. And I think other outreach agencies hear the same thing.
We're quickly running out of time, but Lisa, similar challenges?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with like hundreds of volunteers, as Anna said, really depending on our faith groups, as going back to what we've talked about at the beginning, that we couldn't do it without the support of all the different faith groups, the organizations, Food for Life, which is bringing the food to many of the dinners and lunches, Partnership West Food Bank.
So very quickly, if people want to find out more information about the programming at St. Christopher's or Wellington Square, how do they do that, Lisa?
Just Google Friday Night Community, walking into the church. We're there all day Friday. So
and then I assume Google Open Doors.
Come on into St. Christopher's Church, right across from McDonald's on Guelph Line. Ask for Anna or Sarah. We can have a cup of coffee, tell you more about what we do. Come in anytime during the week. Saturdays, we're there. Yeah.
So I want to thank Orville, Lisa, and that's terrible, and Anna for joining me today. It's a great discussion, and we are very fortunate to have, as I said at the outset, so many caring people in our community that reach out on a regular basis to those in need. So I thank you very much for being here, and I thank you for the continuation of the great work you do in our community. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on Burlington Matters. Hello, I'm Rick Goldring, and welcome back to Burlington Matters. On today's program, we're talking to leaders in our faith communities and their community partners about the great work that they're doing connecting people in our community. My next two guests are Steve Swartwood, who is the community life pastor at Glad Tidings Church on Guelph Line in Burlington, and Rishia Burke, who's a research associate with Community Development Halton. So welcome to the two of you. Rishia, I want to start with you. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to see you do a presentation, and hear you do a presentation about connecting with people who are marginalized or isolated in the city of Burlington. And you actually went out and knocked on doors. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. That was back in 2011. Wow.
6 years ago.
Yeah, and we Community Development Halton really just wanted to take some time to reach out and find out what was going on with people who were living in marginalized situations. We actually reached out across Halton, but did some specific work in North Burlington, where there wasn't a lot of connecting going on in sort of a suburban commuter community. So we knocked on doors where people were isolated and listened to them. We took what we heard from people, which were issues around just access to recreation for their kids, food security issues, feeling isolated with lack of transit, and brought those started bringing people together to talk about those issues and engage folks like Steve and Glad Tidings and other community partners, many churches, and other partners like Food for Life, Partnership West, people who had a say in those kinds of issues, and started talking about what could we do together to make a change. What kind of collective effort could we have, listening to people and then acting on the assets that we have in community to make a difference.
Amazing. So Steve, you were part of that group at the beginning.
Yeah.
And why don't you you found people had concerns about food and isolation, and a lot of people who maybe tuned in don't believe there's these social issues in Burlington. What's your response?
Yeah, you know what, just generally speaking, there was a lot of people who were looking for a space to meet and looking for a place to belong, and then also just given some of the needs that do exist, people that had different issues and struggles in life, and so like just mental health issues, struggles with single parenting, you know, just people working multiple jobs and just the stresses of life, and just looking for a place where they could find community, find a sense of family, and so we realized that those were a lot of issues, but then also people were looking for how do we get to a place. We needed a location, we needed transportation, we needed access to different types of programming. What could we do? There was many spoken needs.
So tell us about what Glad Tidings did.
Well, so Glad Tidings, well, you know, I came to Burlington Glad Tidings 7 years ago, and so in my pursuit of being the community life pastor, just looking into community and saying how can we as a church get more involved, I quickly became aware of Rishia and what she was doing through community development, and so we just joined the conversation, and so we realized quickly that there was definitely a need in North Burlington for a community space, and our location is right on Guelph Line, and it's a central location, and so we realized that we could go and we have a good sized gym and a kitchen and a place basically as some of our friends at some of the other churches have been offering dinners throughout the weeks, and so we were looking at them as a great model and realized that, you know what, there was some good stuff that could be done, and we had the space, we had some people and some passion, and so we thought that we'd unite that, and so Glad Tidings we started in partnership running our weekly dinner, or twice a month dinners. So.
And this is all through the auspices of North Burlington.
That's right. So North Burlington, our response with our partners like Glad Tidings and other churches and nonprofits said, you know, what are the assets? And the kitchen at Glad Tidings was like a hot spot. Like, that was sweet. How do we get in there and how do we engage that group with this? And to provide a meal, people said we can't all get to the meal at Wellington Square or at Open Doors at St. Christopher's. We'd love to have something in the north. So that was one response. Access to recreation. We have 2 Chill Zone sites, and so those are after-school programs.
Tell us about Chill Zone.
Chill Zone are 2 free after-school programs, and one is at Tansley United Church, and one is at Calvary Baptist Church. So again, churches with a heart for their neighborhood, providing a local solution, a neighborhood solution for getting kids access. Often for, you know, a mom recently said to one of our staff at Tansley, this is the only safe place for our kids to play and be supervised. And it is really, truly a local solution to a local problem with local volunteers and experts running, you know, a situation. We have. So
is it perception of safety? I'm intrigued by that comment about safety, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the perception around safety, that why somebody would say that what's provided at Tansley would be the only safe place to play?
The kids who come to that program, many of them live in one particular housing complex where there is no playground structure. They've all been taken out for risk management reasons, and it's just there's not a few years ago. Yeah, Mayor Goldring, you were there for some of that, and so we've been really working on that solution. There's not a local park that is an easy access for them. They live really at a major intersection in the city, and so that church space and the parking lot, which we cordon off, a nice big, you know, it's got a basketball net and a place to play with sports equipment now, gets used all the time, is really a meeting space, a place for kids to belong in that neighborhood. We have other programs today. We have 55 plus lunch, which is again in a church space.
I can go to that.
Yeah, I can almost go too. And that again, Burlington Christian Fellowship hosts that for us. And so it's really the programs and the activities and the opportunities are for all ages, and nobody is turned away. It is really for people of all walks. Someone may not be able to provide, you know, food, or they don't have money for food, but other people are just isolated and they need a place to belong. And having neighborhood local spaces for people to access and feel like they can connect is really important.
So, you know, the whole issue of social isolation, I was just reading the Huffington Post last night, and there was an article there about how suburbia, and Burlington is still a suburban community for the most part, suburbia wasn't really built to really address the issues of social isolation. So it's not necessarily with some, it's not necessarily an issue of lack of wealth or poverty, but the issue of social isolation is very high. Can you comment on that?
I absolutely agree. People don't have often a feeling of connecting even with their neighbors. Like if you challenge people to know what the names of their neighbors are on all sides, I think some people would be really pressed to know that as we kind of come and go. A local pastor, Aaron from Calvary Baptist, was reading a book and said, do you know more about your neighbor than what the stick people figures tell you on the back of their van? I thought it was a really challenging statement. And so when we care about the people around us and we know their names, that makes people feel really included. So the things that we do together as a collective in North Burlington are really about knowing each other's name. There's nothing better than when someone comes to the door at dinner and you go, hey, how you doing? And you name somebody by name, and there's that recognition, and then you see them in the grocery store or you see them on the street and you know each other. One of our amazing volunteers, Esperanza, said North Burlington is really all about making Burlington feel more cozy. So that we rub shoulders, more intimate, and so taking away that suburban feel where we feel like we know each other, making it a bit more of a village.
Yeah. Steve, any stories you can share that you're particularly makes you feel good or you're particularly proud of?
There's two in particular. Just on the heels of what Rishia was saying, that people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care, and we create those. I believe there's those environments that are created on a regular basis, and so just two things. We celebrate birthdays every dinner, and so every dinner we always there's a roll call. Whose birthday is this week or this month, and so we sing happy birthday. But in particular, there was one of our guests who had arranged. They brought cake and they have a seating area with some friends, and so the community that's established at our dinner is family, and so it's just such a valuable space, a valuable time, and people really appreciate it. And so that's what our goal is, just creating a place where everyone can belong and everyone can develop relationships regardless of the stage of life, regardless of the season, that they can find a place that, I find value, I find purpose. And one of our other guests, he's recently been coming, I would see him walking past our church almost daily, a routine, and he has some exceptionalities, and so I would try to engage him in conversation, he would always run the other way. And just recently, he's been coming to dinner, and at first he would just barely come in the building, and now he comes in and he grabs a bun and grabs mustard, regardless of what's served for the meal, it's a bun and mustard. And now he's actually a part of our team that sets up, he helps clean up, and he actually stays until we turn off the lights. That's his job. And he just finds it's his community. And now we can talk, and in fact this morning as I was grabbing a coffee, I saw him at the place where I grab a coffee, and I was able to say hi, and it's just it's a meaningful relationship that's born. And I think that's one of the other things that I'm so happy to be a part of, is that there's no longer an us and them mentality. We try to create a culture of it's a we. Right. And so it's a great thing to be a part of in North Burlington.
Any challenges or barriers about keeping these programs going?
Well, I think, fundraising and resources. We don't have a sort of a core animator or community developer that strings all of the pieces together. It's always a practice of collaborating, working together in communication. So that's work. I think Steve and I were talking before the show, and just the cares that people bring through the door. So if someone comes through, it's housing and income and precarious employment or education or cultural challenges, to name just a few. And then those are the things that our volunteers are listening to and helping to navigate for people, because we don't just walk with people at a dinner or at a chill zone program or at a seniors lunch, but it's beyond that. And so that's a lot for volunteers to manage. And there's not sort of as we've been sort of processing this, thinking about, there's not sort of a collaborative strategy across the city where we can come together. So we're kind of challenging each other, and a challenge today, say, where are the gaps in our city where maybe this kind of work isn't happening yet, and who are we missing? Who are the people? Who are the nonprofits? What's the city's role? Where are all of our roles, and maybe other churches' roles too, to step up? And we're thinking, who are the people that we're missing, and how can we support each other as we help people navigate through when they sometimes feel isolated and a little bit invisible in our city. So how can we work together more?
I was just saying earlier as well that, you know, in looking at challenges, not as roadblocks, but as opportunities. Right. And we have found just like the incredible resource from Tansley and these other churches that have been in Burlington that have been doing this a lot longer than we have, and gleaned from them as a resource. And so we just, our heartbeat is just saying, hey, as churches and faith groups in our community, how could we all collectively work together just to lean into community and help, you know?
Well, that's a great way to end the program. I want to say thank you very much to Rishia Burke of Community Development Halton and Steve Swartwood of Glad Tidings Church. I thank you both for coming in today, and more importantly, I want to thank you for the tremendous work you're doing connecting people in need who are socially isolated, are marginalized in our community, because it is something that a lot of people in Burlington don't see. But you see it and you're addressing the issue, and I do want to thank you. And I want to thank you for tuning in today to Burlington Matters. If you have an idea for a future program on Burlington Matters, please connect with the Mayor's office at 905-335-7607 or give us or email us at mayor@burlington.ca. Thank you very much again for tuning in. I'm Mayor Rick Goldring. This has been Burlington Matters, truly local television on TV Cogeco. We'll see you next time.